soul and the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick!
From the word go, Sony crashed Sega and Nintendo's party quite expertly. Beginning with the $2.99 price point mic drop at E3 1995,
$2.99.
the PlayStation went on to dominate the remaining years of that decade, selling over 102 million units and becoming a brand which continues to this day. In fact, of the first 4 PlayStation consoles, all of them sit within the top 5 best-selling home consoles of all time, which is an impressive feat, to be sure, but memory cards, rumble in your controllers, games on a CD instead of a cartridge, none of those ideas were new, but Sony certainly made them their own. Maybe it was the dozens of iconic franchises the machine was home to: Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasies 7 to 9, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Wipeout, Gran Turismo, Klonoa, Cool Borders, Ridge Racer, Silent Hill. That's quite a lot, guys. And so today we look back fondly at the start of Sony's grand gaming legacy, playing through the US launch lineup of games. This isn't them here, I'm sure you can tell. This is just for illustrative purposes. Are you ready? Then let's go. Hang on, this sounds familiar. If air combat sounds suspiciously like a different, very well-known arcade flight action game, that's because it actually is that one. The precursor to what would eventually become Ace Combat, the series made its console debut on the PlayStation and saw the player attempt to quell a fictional coup d'etat, that is, if you could make it through the boring opening crawl. If there's one thing I learned from playing through these launch games, it's that a lot of developers were still in the working out process when it came to control standards. Start, for example, is confirm as opposed to the circle or cross button. Similarly, flight controls are a little stiff, with your jet all too happy to perform a barrel roll at the slightest nudging of either direction. I feel sick! And it's almost impossible to see any enemy aircraft when in first person. They sure are enthusiastic when I kill people, though. 66.25% according to the reviews listed on Wikipedia. If you came to learn of a secret underground fighting tournament, would you enter? Because Battle Arena Toshinden would very much like it if you did. A fighting game credited with taking the genre into true 3D for the first time. Like many such pioneers, it's not exactly a looker. It still plays well though, and while for me personally it didn't really feel like any of my moves were particularly visceral or impactful, there's still plenty of variety in there to keep fighting fans entertained. A prime example of how Toshinden brought the fighting game genre into true 3D was via its introduction of a sidestep, whereby fighters can avoid attacks and rotate the stage, giving you an even greater view of city.jpg. With comically villainous lose quips like this,
anytime, anywhere,
and this. It certainly aged over the years, but critics enjoyed it at the time, awarding it 79%. Are you ready for some extreme sports? No? Then you're in luck! ESPN Extreme Games was based on the featured sports of 1995's Summer X Games, but it didn't actually let you, do the sports. Skateboarding, mountain biking, rollerblading, street luge. Select your preferred mode of transport, pick from a variety of horrifying approximations of real-world athletes, choose a location, and race from one end to the other. That's the game. You and a dozen or so other competitors will speed along winding roads, passing through gates, dodging tumbleweeds and boulders, leaping the occasional ramp, and kicking the crap out of your opponents so they fall off and hurt themselves. Now, I don't know for sure if some of these sports are faster than others, but good God, look at Luge Guy go! It's not massively fun, to be honest, and with a surprising lack of blood, the 90s PlayStation calling card, 75%, according to the reviews I could find online, seems like a fair score to me. Kileak the DNA imperative, or Kileak the Blood if you want to get Japanese or European about this, is a first-person mech shooter game, and you know what? I was quite impressed. Not by the gameplay necessarily, it plays quite horribly with tank controls and side-to-side strafe, and not even by the graphical presentation, as there's an awful lot of dark fog in this secret underground lab, or wherever I am. No, Kileak impressed me because of its vision. There's a lot of HUD, but it all makes sense and serves a purpose. There are a load of CG cutscenes setting up the world, and when you hit important level checkpoints, you'll see more of these or receive an update from a member of your team. There's also a level of interactivity with the world that I enjoyed, like these little switches you can flick. For seemingly no good reason, mind, but I liked it. Even though it's an awkward romp through lots of dark, fog-filled corridors, Kileak the DNA Imperative was one of the few launch games that actually showed off what the PS1 was capable of, but achieved just 57% according to the reviews listed on Wikipedia. Oh yeah, here we go, sports time! I've played a basketball game before. What are these camera angles? I don't know what's happening. But I've never watched basketball, so I'm going to give this everything I've got. Selecting my favourite team, that being the Philadelphia 69ers, I quickly got to work losing at sports. Hey, you'd be in trouble if I knew how to do that. I don't know what's going on. Oh, hang on. Here we go. I think I'm getting it. So as it turns out, you only ever control one player, and it appears I've been accidentally allowing the AI to do everything while I've been running away off screen without realising. Whoops. Still count this as a victory though. NBA Jam Tournament Edition was a beloved port of the arcade original, featured hidden characters and teams, and made sports fans really, really happy. I didn't see anything beyond this match though, as I was too busy scoring mad limp buckets. 84% according to the reviews I could find online. Oh yeah, here we go, sports time! I've played a tennis game before. Overbearing, mustachioed idiot, wind your neck in, Mario, please! And I've also watched tennis. Even so, I'm going to give this everything I've got. With character names like Legacy, Sunrise, Abe, and Cappuccino, you can tell Power Serve 3D Tennis is not a licensed sports game. Okay, Legacy versus Cappuccino, let's do this! Oh, a little embarrassing there. Whoa, just slow down, please, I can't keep up. The problem with this sports game is that, like so many other sports games finding their footing on PS1, it makes up its own rules, like transitioning awkwardly from a third-person serve to first-person volleys. It's naturally quite impossible to get to where you need to be in the time required for you to swing and make contact with the ball, so I lost. Really, really badly.
Double fault, 15, all.
Yeah! Double fault! You're not a god, are you, Cappuccino? You're just pretty good at tennis. Oh, for fuck's sake. It's not a pretty or good game, and reviewers agreed, with the title receiving a 39% average. The CG intro may promise an awful lot, but as an arcade port collection of Raiden 1 and 2, or Raiden, I don't know, you should know what to expect with the Raiden Project. The games are vertically scrolling shooters where you and one friend, if you feel like playing in co-op, pilot your craft and destroy enemies and bosses, collecting power-ups and bonuses, and do your best to avoid incoming attacks with the sluggish controls. There are plenty of cool weapons to collect and use along the way, but if you got a PlayStation at launch, you weren't about to show off what it could do by slapping a copy of the Raiden Project into the disc tray. The few reviews available online vary massively in their appreciation, from 84% at its highest to 40% at its lowest, with the average settling on 64%. And this is where it all began. Or rather, it all began for Rayman on the Atari Jaguar, but a port was made for the PlayStation's launch, and it's a good thing they did. Eh? Oh, poor Jaguar. Anyway, Rayman Man's first outing opens with a delightful Saturday morning cartoon-style video introducing the world in which Raymond resides. As it's currently under attack from the evil Mr. Dark, he must traverse several worlds with the aim of saving all of the caged Electoons for some reason. I'm sure he knows why. Either way, he's very enthusiastic about it.
No problem.
Even if he does sound just like a robot. The game is hard, and I died a lot. It's a side-scroller, and very 90s. But enemies are unpredictable and hit hard, and jumps can sometimes be very tricky, especially trying to jump on these bloody swinging things! However, it's delightful, campy fun, and sets the stage beautifully for further Rayman titles to iterate on the formula established here. 83%.
Ridge Racer! Remember that one?
Yes, alright, we get it, Kaz, thank you. It's time for another debut of a long-running franchise now, this time the sideways sliding action of Ridge Racer. In fact, similarly to Rayman, this series' console debut is in fact a port, originally being released on the Namco System 22 arcade system board. This makes a lot of sense actually, because while Ridge Racer is undoubtedly an arcadey racer, it feels quite rough around the edges here. The crazy sideways drifts are very difficult to initiate, and when you do manage one, you often finish your slide facing the wall. In later games, you'd usually end up facing whichever way the track is going, but not here. As such, you bounce off walls and other cars constantly, lurching violently across the track and losing all speed as you do so. There's a lot of nice set dressing, however, with helicopters and planes flying overhead, but even though I may have been a novice, I found Ridge Racer more frustrating than fun. The critics were split, with some reviews scoring in the 90s and one outlet giving it 77% according to the scores on Wikipedia. We scored Street Fighter the movie 58th on our list of every video game movie ranked from worst to best, making many of you really angry in the process. But what of the game? What? Why did they make a game of a movie of a game? I don't know either, but they did, and I've played it. Ditching the instantly recognizable and colourful graphical style for which the series is famed, SFTM instead opts for digitized versions of the movie actors, so if you wanted to play as Man Blanca, now's your opportunity. It's fine, I suppose, although it does have a couple of interesting ideas. The movie battle mode follows the plot of the film, interjecting occasionally to give you specific choices like go into town or watch for smugglers. I doubt the outcome has much bearing beyond which order will you punch which person in, but it's nice to see anyway. A lot of criticism was aimed at the animation of the digitized fighters, which is fair, and I soon discovered the trick to winning was a combination of constantly blocking and constantly kicking. Until Blanca copied my strategy. 59%. A port of the 3DO game released a year prior, Total Eclipse Turbo was brought to PlayStation owners by Crystal Dynamics, the studio now better known for its Tomb Raider reboot and Marvel's Avengers. Described by US Gamer as one of the worst PS1 launch titles, I'm not about to disagree. It's a spaceflight sim set against the rough backdrop of humanity being selected for consumption by a race of warfaring, squid-faced aliens and controls pretty terribly. It definitely doesn't help that these overly sensitive controls cause you to be damaged by literally everything. Enemies, terrain, hell, a stiff space breeze would take you out of commission if it could. And so when you end up in a tunnel section, constantly bouncing off walls by going too fast and still bouncing off walls when you go slow because you're trying to evade enemy fire, it's a recipe for a frustrating, not fun time. 64%, according to an average of reviews listed on Moby Games. A sneaky bonus entry here, as Wipeout was actually a European launch title when the PS1 released a month later, but given its significance and that it's the only game differing from the US launch titles, I'm gonna count it. Wipeout has become synonymous with the PlayStation brand in the decades that followed, even if it's been criminally absent from their lineups recently, and it all started here. And also on the Sega Saturn, but mainly here. The original Wipeout is tough. Don't get me wrong, it's still an original concept and very satisfying to master, but the wonky PS1 physics run deep with this one. Power-ups are tough to hit opponents with, there's more of that bloody bouncing off walls and other races which removes all of your speed, and if you do this in first person, it's like being punched in the head. Oh bloody hell! Also, if you don't make a jump, it really is just salt in the wound to watch you be restored achingly slowly. It's still an excellent game, mind, but like all great franchises, it's had time to improve and iterate with subsequent releases, improvements and iterations that are not present here. Regardless, it still scored an impressive 90%. Time for another fighting game now, and here comes Zero Divide with the sharpest looking polygons gaming had to offer. My first enemy was a giant robot scorpion thing, a confusing mass of appendages and stabbing implements. Thankfully, he was no match for my cat lady robot person, but then I had to fight G.I. Roe bot, and that was just unfair. I mean, he has a gun. He won the round. He killed me with a gun. That doesn't seem right. Then, another cat lady robot person was up, and she was much better than me. Stop, please, I'm not having fun. When I decided to peacefully quit the game, it was very rude to me.
I can't believe you're giving up so soon.
What?
You're such a baby.
That's not necessary.
Go home to your mama.
Stop it! GameFan called it one of the best designed, programmed, and tweaked fighting games yet. I disagree, but it scored well across the board, earning an average of 77% according to the reviews listed on Wikipedia. And that 77% takes the average of the PlayStation launch lineup to 70.33%. And there we are. Did you have a favourite among them? Please let me know about it in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with my terrible internet jokes and future videos in this series. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, look after yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Bye!